This is the 150th anniversary of the Emancipation Proclamation. This is the centenary of Rosa Parks. Did you know that? This would have been her 100th birthday on February 4th. And do you know, because we stand forever in the vortex of history, that yesterday was the 45th anniversary of Dr. Martin Luther King standing in this pulpit at Abyssinian Baptist Church. And Bill Payne is going to say something about that after we hear. And we see ourselves as agents of change and agents of history, and we always try to connect what we do to the Black freedom struggle. But as we reflected upon the Montgomery bus boycott, began to unfold all its dimensions, we came upon the name Claudette Colvin. And even though it had always been mentioned, the popular narrative was such that the focus was always on the boycott, with not much being said about what ended the boycott. We talked about the outside strategy, but we didn't talk about the inside strategy.
Come on now.
See, many people don't know why Dr. King called the boycott to an end. He called the boycott to an end because on December 20th, 1956, the United States Supreme Court handed down its decision in the case Browder, Aurelia Browder versus William Gale, the mayor of Montgomery, Alabama. There were 4 plaintiffs in that case: Aurelia Browder, Susie McDonald, who have since passed away, Mary Louise Smith, who is still alive and who we hope we'll be able to honor at some future time, and one who is among us tonight, Claudette Colvin. You see, before Rosa Parks got arrested on December 1st, 1955, other people had gotten arrested. On March 2nd, 1955, a 15-year-old girl from Booker T. Washington High School refused to get up, refused to yield her seat on a segregated bus. And there were others after that. And as quiet as it's kept, Rosa Parks was not in the case that went before the Supreme Court for technical reasons. But they had to find somebody who was arrested not just on a misdemeanor, but arrested for, in fact, stating that they were violating the segregated laws in Alabama. And that was Claudette Colvin, and that was Susie McDonald, and Mary Louise Smith, and Aurelia Browder. They won their case in federal court in June of that year. But Gale appealed, and it went to Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court affirmed the decision of the federal court in December of 1920. It is that case in which the Supreme Court of the United States declared that segregated seating on buses and trains was unconstitutional, not just in Montgomery, not just in Alabama, but in the United States of America. Imagine if you could have somebody in your presence that was an eyewitness to what the scientists call the Big Bang, the beginning of the universe. Imagine if you had somebody that could come back and say, I was there. This is what happened. Well, we have somebody that was present at the Big Bang of the Civil Rights Movement, the Civil Rights Universe in 1956. So how did Claudette Colvin get here in Newark, New Jersey? church. We was in the meeting. We meet every Thursday, and I want to invite all of you that are here tonight to be with us next Thursday. Now, next Thursday, we're not meeting. Next Thursday is the anniversary of the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King. We are marching next Thursday, April 4th, and we want everybody in here to march with us. We're going to meet right there at the intersection of West Market Street and Springfield Avenue at 4:30 on April the 4th. But we were talking in the meeting, and I said, well, Claudette Colvin. And this fellow was in our meeting all the time. He claims to have known Harry Tubman and Sojourner Truth. Many claims to have known Claudette Colvin. He said, I got a sister phone number right here in my pocket. You remember Bernard White from WBAI? Bernard White wanted to interview Claudette Colvin, and Bernard needed somebody to get Claudette to the station. And those somebodies were Brother Amanifu Williams and Sister Lisa Davis. And it was through Brother Amanifu that we were able to contact Claudette's agent, who is her sister, and begged and pleaded that she would come to Newark, New Jersey. She said, okay, wait a minute, let me check you out. And I told her, go www.njpop.org, and she could learn all about it. So apparently we got the stamp of approval. And the sister said that Claudette Colvin would be with us on March 28th for Women's History Month. And we're so glad that she is here. And I'm going to tell you, it's been a wonderful week for me, because I've had the privilege to take Sister Colvin to all the interviews. And I want to thank Open Line for interviewing her. I want to thank Hugh Hamilton on WBAI for interviewing her. WBAI is here tonight. Fred Wynn is here taking video for WBAI. Give Fred a hand. I want to thank Imhotep Gary Bird for interviewing her. I want to thank Reverend Al Sharpton for announcing the program. I want to thank Brother Imhotep Gary Bird for interviewing her. And she's going to be interviewed tomorrow morning on Democracy Now! Democracy Now! Is right here with Amy Goodman, right here in the room with us. It's been a wonderful week for me. I just thank God.
Go ahead, Larry.
That He has kept me alive long enough. You know, I met Rosa Parks in 1971. I was the one that put forward the resolution to change Waverly Avenue School to Rosa Parks Elementary School. You remember that? I thank God that I could live long enough to not only meet Rosa Parks, but to meet who attorney Fred Gray. Fred Gray is the one that argued the case. He said if there had not been a Claudette Colvin, there wouldn't have been a Martin Luther King and a Rosa Parks. And so, brothers and sisters, without any further delay, let us welcome, as warm as possible, our pioneer of the Civil Rights Movement, Sister Claudette Colvin. Hold up your signs and say thank you, Claudette Colvin. Hold those signs up. We got some signs. Hold those signs.
God bless you.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
But really, that was my purpose of coming in and trying to put together a few notes. But I don't really have to tell the story. All I have to do is ditto what has been said. But since they said I would be in a church, I said, let me find Bible verse like we used to do back in the day in elementary school that would to tell how I felt. And I took this Bible verse from Ecclesiastes, chapter 3, verse 1. And I think most people know that verse. Most Baptists know that verse. To everything there is a season and a time. To everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under the heaven. So it goes on to say there is a time to be born and a time to die. And in every case there is opposing action, and these actions is there designed to keep the human behavior in balance. So I'm not going to go and elaborate on the time factor because it's too complicated. I'm just going to give you a simple version. And the reason why I'm going to do that is because the news media has asked me, Miss Colvin, why didn't you move? Why did you did you plan to relinquish your seat to this white pensioner? I said, no, it was an impulsive act. And so that's why I got this, I looked up this verse, this old time Bible verse from the Old Testament. And I'm going to be a little take an arbitrary course and give you a simplified version of what I mean by time. Every day we divide time into seconds, minutes, and hours, and we refer to events as past and present, and we try to look into the future. But going back, I have to give you, kind of try to set the stage for March the 2nd. It was first, before I set the stage, I want to pass out these signs. These signs help demonstrate what happened on March the 2nd. One on this side, and one on this side. Hold it up so they can see.
I grew up in the South. I can see this all the time.
This was the problem. Yeah. That is why I was arrested on March the 2nd. Because I defied segregation rules. Mr. Larry Hams had already explained about the Emancipation Proclamation and that we was still living under Jim Crow rule. So going back to this Bible verse, it was the season, you know, right? It was the season, we think of the season like spring, fall, summer, and winter. It was the season because it was February. Because that was Negro history. Well, it wasn't legally Negro History Month then, but it was Negro History Week. But my instructors from Booker T. Washington School, Mrs. Geraldine Nesby and Mrs. Joseph Lawrence, did lectures for the whole month. Because we had been deliberately left out of the history of America. There was no books in the library about our great heroes. Right. So, so the teachers would bring in information that they had learned in college and through the years. So they talked about Mrs. Geraldine Nesby got her master's degree here not in New Jersey, but in New York from Columbia University. And she was referred to as a very unorthodox teacher because she didn't follow the old rules of teaching. So she had us to write essays that month. And that's where I learned about Harriet Tubman, so the famous woman, Sojourner Truth, Mary Kyle Bethune, and Barry Anderson. So, but then we learned about the men. We learned about Frederick Douglass, and we didn't even know about W.E.B. Du Bois. And so we wrote essays, and we talked about what was happening. We talked about Jackie Robinson, who at that time had broke down the baseball barrier. And we was talking about why there's no blacks on television. There was only Sammy Davis Jr. and Pearl Bailey and sometimes Lena Horne. So we went in deep discussion about the injustice locally that was happening locally. Like we could not try on clothes in department stores. There was those white and color signs over the water fountains. And we couldn't enter any public state building through the front door, front entrance. We had to go to the servant entry or the employer entry when we had school tours. The school children had to go to the back door. Wow. So we talked, and you couldn't, definitely, may I do it straight? Stick my foot in another shoe in the department store. I could not do that. So that is another thing. So you had to draw the outline of your foot on a brown paper bag and take it to the store. Because when you went to the better stores, department stores, white people would not try on a shoe that a black person had tried on. So that's how it was in the South. So I would like to tell the children today, they don't know about all of these things that was going on in the South. That was like the story we read. It was once upon a time. These were Jim Crow rules. So during that evening, after we got out early, you see, it was a time. It was a time. We do not know, to this day, I do not know why they let us out early. The only thing I can suggest that it was probably a faculty meeting, because there was a special bus that would take us directly to my community. Instead, it was a Wednesday. Instead, we went downtown. And when we got to Bay Ridge and Dexter Avenue, we saw Highland Garden bus coming, and that was our bus that came to my community. And we boarded. It was about, according to the police record, it was about 13 students. And at first, it wasn't many people on the bus, and the bus motorman, as the bus proceeded on down Dexter Avenue, the more white passenger got on the bus, and the bus motorman asked four of us to get up and give this white woman a seat. But at that time, the bus was at full capacity. And so 3 of the students reluctantly got up and moved to the rear. But I did not. I remained seated. Do you understand? The white woman, this white passenger, she wasn't an elderly woman like I know today. She was a young white woman. And she had the whole seat to sit down. She had a whole seat to sit opposite me. But she would not sit opposite me. Jim Crow rule was enforced to make white people feel superior, black people feel inferior. And so the bus now, I had time to think. See, I wasn't breaking the law under the state law, separate but equal. I wasn't breaking the law. I wasn't sitting in the area where white people were reserved for white people. But what angered the bus motor and the passengers, white passengers, is that I did not yield to authority.
All right.
Back to Ecclesiastes. I think I'm pronouncing it right. They say there's a time for every purpose. So I said, this is the time for me to decide an unjust law. This is my feeling, my emotional feeling. And I got the spirit from the lectures of my instructors who were brave enough to talk about and bring us all this information on Negro, at that time, Negro History Week, but we did it the whole month. So you see, I had a whole month. I had a whole month. And I said, they picked the wrong day to pick them. I made it short. There's some in the middle school. I tried to make them. I say, history had me glued to the seat. And this little girl said, how is that? I said, do you know what it felt like? I said, it felt like Harriet Tubman's hands were pushing me down on one shoulder. So that's why I couldn't move. So now this is from Baker Street to Port Square. That's about 5 stops. Now the bus motor yelled to the traffic patrolman to get he yelled to the traffic patrolman to come on the bus and get me off the bus. I mean, to get me out of my seat. When the traffic patrolman came to the back door and he asked me, and he stood up beside in front of me and asked me, yeah, why are you in the city there? I said, I paid my constitution, I paid my fare, and it's my constitutional right. And then he yelled back to the bus driver, I have no jurisdiction here. So we were called Yellow Jackets. 13 students. They did not move. I don't know whether they were so afraid that they had heard all the lectures and they knew my purpose while I was remaining seated. So they did not get off the bus. They remained seated also. So that gave me support and more strength. And so we thought it was over with because I wasn't breaking the law. The white woman could remain standing. She didn't want to sit down. But lo and behold, the bus driver drove the bus in the same normal route of the bus route. And when they got to the street, Bill and Commerce, two squad car policemen came to the back door, the back door of the bus, and came and stood up and asked me the same thing. And I became even more defiant. Because they shouted at me and they said, "Gal," and one kicked at me. And then one grabbed one arm and the other one grabbed the other. You know why they grabbed it? Because Harriet Colvin and Soldier of the Truth was telling me, "Remain seated." The spirit, you know, in the churches you Baptists, the spirit wouldn't let me move. Because I know it was not fair and that I wasn't violating the segregation law. I wasn't violating the segregation law. It was the Jim Crow law when a bus driver had police power. He could ask you to get up and give your seat to a white person. But that time they needed 4 seats in order for one white person to sit down. So they ran me off the bus because I refused to walk off voluntarily.
All right.
And they arrested me, they booked me, and they didn't take me to a juvenile holding vicinity. It's a holding center, faculty or whatever you call it. They took me to city jail, adult city jail. And then it was like, I knew when the keys, I tell people, you know what it sounded like? It sounded like an old Western movie, you know, when these keys go click. And I knew I was locked up and I couldn't get out. And then because I'm Baptist, I started crying and praying and said the Lord's Prayer. And then I said the Trinity. I didn't seem to do. I went to recited some of Edgar Allan Poe's poems. So, because I did not know whether the student went to tell my parents right away that they had pulled me off the bus, that I was arrested. But they did, and in about 3 hours, I stayed in jail about 3 hours. And my pastor, Reverend H.S. Johnson, and my mother came and got me out of jail. So that is pretty much my story, how I got arrested. But when I got out of jail and I was going across the riding with Reverend Johnson, you know what Reverend Johnson said? Claudette, I was so worried about you, but I think you done brought the revolution here.